Okay, so we're going to need to program our car to flip over. If our player flips their car on its back when they hit a ramp or a bump or something, we want them to be able to press a key, have the car flip back over, and they can resume driving. If you've been test driving your landscape, you've probably already flipped it over a few times. So let me try to flip it over and show you what we've got. Let's just go over here and see if we can flip it. Okay, and I hit the F key, and there it is. It flips right back over, and we can resume driving. Okay, so let's look at the programming involved in doing that, and it's extremely simple. So in your house build project, you worked in the level blueprint right here, which is sort of a programming that modifies behavior of the entire game world. And you could program this in the level blueprint. But a better way would be to store this programming directly in the car itself. You can think of the car's blueprint as its brain. It contains all the programming and all the data that it knows how to use and all the things it knows how to do, and we want to add a new ability into that car's brain. So we're going to go right into its brain by opening up its blueprint. So you can access the blueprint a few different ways. The easiest way, since our car is right here in the level on our world outliner, is to just find the car right here and click Edit Blueprint or Edit Vehicle Blueprint. And there it is. It opens right up. There's another way. You could also select it in the Vehicle Blueprint, click this blue Edit Blueprint button and open Blueprint Editor. And yet a third way to do it, and this would be for something that you wanted to access that was not already in the level, unlike our car here, would be to come down here to your content browser, find the actor you want to program, and in our case it's going to be under Vehicle Advanced Blueprints folder, and there it is, and we could just double click that and open it up. You could also search for it here if you knew the name of it, right? So there it is. And any of those three ways works. They all accomplish the same thing, but for now we're just going to click Edit Blueprint right here in the World Outliner. So here we are in the blueprint, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. These are our different tabs up here, and if you have all of this, feel free to just close everything down except for Event Graph and Viewport. So everything you want to leave Viewport and Event Graph. Okay, so we're going to be working in the Event Graph, but real quick, I just want to show you the Viewport. If I click the Viewport, this is a visualization of this blueprint. So blueprint does not only contain programming, but it also contains the other objects like these cameras and a lot of different stuff here. And these are all called components, and I've got a list of them here. So the components we have here, we have the actual car's mesh. We have two different cameras, one for the third-person view, the default view, and one for if we wanted to switch to sort of a driver's view. This rear camera, you can see here, is attached by a spring arm, which is sort of this invisible arm that just keeps it going behind the car. Don't worry too much about that stuff. We've got some other components here, like the sound blueprint that controls the engine sounds. We've got these text blueprints over here for, not blueprints, text components over here that show the speed. So you can see that everything about this car is all wrapped up in this blueprint, and that's awesome for keeping things tidy and easy and to find and to work with. And we could even add in our own components here by clicking Add Component. So if I wanted to add like a cylinder for some reason, if I wanted to carry a giant barrel on, where's my cylinder? Oh, I'm sorry, I put it under the thing. Let me click here. If I wanted to add a cylinder for some reason, and I want to carry a giant barrel or like, I don't know, a cannon, right, on my car, I could totally just stick that on here, and now when we hit play, I've got this on there. So feel free to play around with that to your heart's content. I'll leave it there for now. That's fine. So I'm going to go back into the blueprint, and we're going to go back over to the event graph and take a look at that. So here is all the programming involved and everything this car knows how to do. It's all right here. And right here is the programming for flipping the car. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's all it takes. So I'm going to recreate this for you and kind of talk about it one step at a time to see what's happening. So let me just delete this here. Okay, so I made my car flip upon pressing the F key. You can use whatever key you want as long as it isn't already taken, but I'm just going to show you how to do it using the F key. So I'm going to go down here, just somewhere in empty space, and I'm going to right click. Okay, and I've got this little box that pops up. These are all the nodes that are available to me. Each of these little boxes here These are called nodes. When I talk about nodes, I'm talking about these little boxes. Okay, so I'm going to right click and I've got all the nodes. So I'm going to search for what I want to happen. I want to push the F key. So I'm going to type F key and there it is right there, F. Okay, so these red nodes here are called events. You can think of these as triggers. What triggers the flipping action that we want to create? The F key. So I've got pressed and released. These are called pins. Okay. This is saying anything that comes off of this pressed pin will happen when I press the F key. Anything comes off of this released pin will happen when I release the F key. Simple. So I want my car to flip when I press the F key. So I'm going to click on this little triangle pin and drag my little wire out and release. Just anywhere out here in open space, I'm going to release the mouse button. Okay, and what do we want to happen when we press the F key? We want to set the actor's rotation. So we want to rotate the car. We want to give him a new rotation. So we want to set his rotation. So we're just going to type set actor rotation. Okay, and we can either click it or since it's already highlighted, we can just hit enter. And there it is, set the actor rotation. I like to keep my pins and my wires straight. That's personal preference. It would probably help you with some organization if you try to keep your stuff relatively straight and easier to read. Okay, so we selected that. So here on the set actor rotation node, we've got a couple of things here. These are all called input pins on this side. These are output pins. We're going to focus on the input pins. This is where we give this node, the set actor rotation node, any data or information it needs to do what we want. So the first thing we have here is the target pin. This is where we tell it which actor to rotate. Since we didn't put anything in, it defaults to self right here. And that's correct. We want the car to flip itself over. If we wanted to flip a completely different actor over, this is where we would come in and plug something else in to specify that. But we are perfectly happy with self. We want to rotate ourselves. So next we have the new rotation pin. And you notice there's three values here, the X, Y, and Z. Let's go back to our editor and take a look and see what that's all about. So when I select an object, like my vehicle here, and I go into the rotate mode, okay, you see here I've got three little colored wheels, and these represent the X, Y, and Z axes. So my X is going to be sort of this, it's what's called pitch, okay? Y is going to be the roll of the car on the Y axis, and the Z is what's called the yaw, which is sort of the left and right horizontal movement of it, okay? So to flip our car back over, we want to reset our car's rotation to 0, to default, to straight up and down, 0, on both the X-axis, so this one here, we want to make sure this is at 0 so that it's sitting like that. On the Z-axis, which is the roll here, we want to make sure that it's not rolled up like that, so we want to set that to 0 there. But not on the Z-axis, right? Because we don't care about that. Okay, so let's go back to our blueprint. Okay, so at default here, everything defaults to 0, 0, 0. And this is great for X and Y. That's what we want. We want them to be at 0, 0, but not for the Z-axis, right? So watch what happens if I leave this all at 0. And I'm going to check this box, and I'll talk about what that means in a minute. But when I flip my car, if I leave everything at 0, let me just go off the cliff here. Please don't land it. Of course I did. Okay, so I finally flipped my car. I suddenly became an awesome driver while doing this. You can see I'm facing this mountain. When I hit F, I actually turned slightly. I was facing sort of this way. And now when it did it, I was facing this way. We don't want that. We want our car to remain facing the same direction it already was, right? Because that would be really confusing to flip over, hit Z, and all of a sudden, or hit F, and all of a sudden you're facing a different direction. So we need to not return the Z-axis to 0. We want it to remain the same. So how do we do that? How do we accomplish that? How do we keep the Z-axis the same? Well, to start, we need to get our actor's rotation. So let's just go here to some open space right over here. And we're going to right click, and we want to get the actor's rotation. So what's the node for that? It's intuitively named get actor rotation. And I don't even have to finish typing it. It's already found it, and I can just hit enter, get actor rotation. Okay, so that's great, but we don't want to get its entire rotation value. We only want to get the Z-axis right? So what we're going to do is we're going to right click this purple pin right here, and we're going to click split struct pin. A struct is a collection of values. So in this case of a rotator value, it's the 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. The rotator just kind of keeps them in a tidy little package. So we're going to open that package and just pull out individual components. We just want the Z axis. We don't care about the X and Y. We're going to leave those alone. So we've got that. Let's do the same for the rotation input on the set actor rotation node. We're going to right click it, split struct pin, and all we're going to do is take our Z and plug it in. Okay, so we're just telling it that we want to keep that same Z value of the rotation that we already have. So keep the Z axis exactly the same. So what's happening here? This is it. So when we hit F, when we press F, we're setting the actor's rotation. Which actor? Ourself. What's the new rotation? 0 on the X, 0 on the Y, and the Z from the actor rotation that we already had. Okay. One more thing we need to do before we're done, and I already did it, but you need to make sure this teleport physics button is checked. Don't worry too much just yet about what this means or what it does. Just know that you need to enable it to allow the car to teleport back to an upright position. If you're pushing your flip key and nothing's happening, one of the first things to check is make sure that you have this checked. So let's give this a play test and see what happens. And hopefully I can do it relatively soon. The cylinder I put on top is actually making it harder to flip. It's actually serving as sort of a stabilizer. Okay, there we go. I've done it. I've flipped my car. I had to remove that cylinder off the top. But I've done it. So now when I hit F, boom, we flipped. We're facing the same direction we were already facing. And all's well. And we can continue on racing. Awesome.